I gotta look good for the cameras. Is the makeup done? Is it all in order? We have an image to keep. People expect me to have the best hair on the news. Can't have it all over the place. All right, we're good to go. First up is keeping your hair worth shrinking your testicles. Men are asking themselves this after reports of testicles shrinking so much they now look like chewed gum. With the company responding, "Don't worry, we're working on medications so that they can reinflate you to nice, robust testicles. And we're working on future pills for whatever problems that might cause too. Don't worry, you're safe with us." Next, good news for Chinese lab workers. USAID is back to distributing funds so they can now return to their important work of killing puppies. In a warning to our male viewers that women might see heavier flows this month after the blood moon, and why astrologists are saying this is the week of the psycho bitch. And with those being a Gemini dating a Cancer, if you have been recently fired from your job, you might want to wait a couple weeks before telling your spouse. With new planes falling from the sky, aviation officials ask, just how many lady pilots are there? With further criticism of women in the workforce after this incident with a boom pole, with many going, geez, they can't even handle a boom pole? With Michelle Obama entering free agency, how much wiener do you need to be able to handle to land this catch? Michelle has launched her own podcast where she will be able to dish out the dirty details with her brother. Wait, that's brother? That's a man? That's not a shaved light? Weird. Anyways, on their new podcast, they're releasing the dirty details, the scandalous tales, already with such information that Barack Obama tends to be late. Something critics are saying we already knew, as the man is black. With critics saying they'd rather hear about how you had to leave him after you watched him drown the chef and thought, hey, that's not right. I'm the man around here. I should be doing those things.
It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lately hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. And we're here right after they nearly shut down the government. Isn't it always fun if you're a libertarian and they're like, oh no, they're going to shut down not the government, not the precious government. Please don't shut down the government. And then they play a whole game about who's going to be at fault for shutting down the government. Please keep it open. I don't know how I'll continue. I don't know how I'll make it. All right, let's talk about this auto pen. We got a bunch of stuff, and then we got even more stuff. This is a packed episode brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $6 kilo. Only place in the entire world you can get an entire kilo of kratom for just $60. And on that note, guys, I've got gigs coming up. I got Des Moines, Iowa. Look at that. Third time's a charm. Finally got it right. Finally actually know where I'm going to be. It's a Libertarian State Convention. I think the next night, Scott Horton's going to be out there. Josh Smith, I think, lives out there. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time at the convention. And then, of course, if you like skiing, a little spring skiing, wear the shorts, wear the t-shirts, wear the bikini, take the jugs out, enjoy the sun, mix it up in the trees. And if you're a good skier, hit me up, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. But if you're a shitty skier, don't be hitting me up. I want the people that are going to be like, let's do the gnarly shit in the woods. And I'm like, I don't really want to be in the woods. And they're like, nah, we're doing the gnarly shit. And then I got to do I want you to be better than me so that I have to go do the things I wouldn't otherwise do. Anyways, robsnewsroom@gmail.com, or slide into those DMs. Let me know when you're going to be out there, and we'll hit some slopes. I usually like to start off on my own in the morning because, you know, I tend to hit the slopes, and then you realize you're not done with your daily diarrhea, and then you got to go back, and then you got to fiddle with your boots. You got to do this thing, and if you're skiing with the random fans, you want to be cool, so you do it at like 11 after you've gotten your warm-up laps in, and then you go to like 1, and then you go, sayonara, I got to go read the news and put together things for the show. Let's talk about this auto pen for a second. let's talk about the auto pen, because it's a fun play. Donald Trump saying, hey, those pardons were signed by auto pens. They don't stand. I don't even think Joe Biden's aware of it. And listen, how's that going to play out? Are they going to end up going to court? Are they going to bring court cases against Joe Biden? I mean, against Hunter Biden? And then are they going to actually have proof of the fact that Joe Biden wasn't aware, that Joe Biden wasn't aware of the auto pen? Also, shame on the New York Post. Sorry, I should have linked in this article, but the New York Post said that somebody else was really running the White House, but they didn't want to report the name. And let's find out who Chief Lizard was the entire time. I mean, that's the guy that should be brought in front of a Senate or congressional hearing. Who's the guy that was running the place? Every single time they stood up and they pretended like the White House itself was some demon creature making the decisions so that if Joe Biden said something, it's not the official viewpoint of the White House. And we were wondering the entire time, what unelected official was really running the show? And apparently the New York Post could leak that name to us, and they've decided not to. Anyways, you know, I think if you're using an auto pen, you like, at least Donald Trump, he does a nice little process. He pops the thing open like a champagne thing. It's not that much work. Other people prepare the documents. Donald Trump doesn't even read over the documents. He's like, hey, what's this thing? That sounds good. And then he signs it. He doesn't even read the thing over. They could be sticking random pieces of paper in front of him, banning Diet Coke. And he's like, I signed no more Diet Coke. I would never do that. I mean, how little work goes into the auto pen where when I'm watching the Donald Trump process, they just tell him what the thing is, they open up the thing, and they sign it. I mean, if we're doing presidential signings, we should be rolling out red carpets. We should have the guys with the trumpets. We should have the guy with the big scroll that reads the whole thing. And then there should be like a presidential stamp that the guy stamps the thing. I mean, how little work are you doing as president that you can't even show up and sign a document yourself? I get it. Some little kid sends in a letter and you want to just send it back. And listen, I've used DocuSign before. I've done most of the business I've done in my life by sending someone a DocuSign, but that's because you're looking for their signature. I feel like if someone's looking for a presidential signature, you want the whole fancy process, particularly if it's a pardon that you're not going to be getting in trouble for. You want a whole display of the thing. You want the boop, boop, and now presenting the pardon for all the people that need preemptive pardons because they engaged in illegal government activity, while we pretend that the next administration is actually going to be more vicious than this administration, and so therefore we have to give preemptive pardons, because if not, he's going to go after people that were otherwise innocent, which no one's ever done, not us for the last 4 years with Donald Trump. You should have to make a big old presentation out of the thing. I mean, if your whole job is that you just kind of pretend to work, and then every once in a while people put together the whole thing, and then you sign the document, it should be a whole big extravagant production. But then you're not even there for the signing. It's just a robot does the signing for you. And then wouldn't you need some sort of another process to actually certify that the president did it? Is there another document that he signs to showcase the fact that he actually did the auto sign? So listen, you know, the safe bet. There's some safe bets that I've learned from my 10 years of podcasting. When it comes to foreign policy, just go, hey, I don't like if you're killing kids. That's a pretty safe bet that you're not going to be wrong on that one. You can also pretty much bet that they're probably lying to you about the interest of the wars so that people can make money. So you can basically just stand up against the wars because whatever they're pitching to you as being even in your interest. I'm just saying, even if you're evil and you're okay with wars, if they're in your own strategic interest, it's a pretty safe bet that when they're doing it, it's not actually in our strategic interest. That's a pretty safe bet. The other one that's a pretty safe bet is I forgot. I started the sentence and I ADD'd, and it had something to do with what I was talking about, and I have no idea what I was talking about. I literally just brain farted completely. No idea what I was talking about, so we'll just move on to the next topic. That happens here sometimes. Oh, yeah. A soft bet against government actually ever unwinding its own corruption, because they like to make big shows of this thing. Durham reports, 3 years investigations. Oh, turns out that was the exact same guy who looked into all the Bush torturings and said, yeah, that was okay too. It doesn't seem like they like looking backwards all that much and actually prosecuting persecutions. So just safe bet that I'm all for it. Go after them. Bring them into court. Showcase how much dementia Biden actually had. Find out who was covering him for the entire time and what were the juiciest dementia stories that were happening behind the scenes. Was the guy cutting into his shoes like it was a steak? Was he sleeping in the wrong rooms? Was he sniffing hair and walking around, oh, you're not Jill? And then how are you possibly going to give him testimony now when he's like, do you remember looking at this? You know, you pull like a Saul Goodman type trick, and you're like, so you signed this document? You put a Chinese menu in front of him, and he's like, yeah, I signed it. Yeah, I remember this one. And you go, Your Honor, that's a Chinese menu. That's not the pardon. This guy clearly didn't know what was going on. All right, another quick topic. All right, here's something I'm kind of liking about Donald Trump is that, he's kind of keeps alcoholic hours. And that it used to be when you're putting together these podcasts, you want it to be up early in the morning. All the news comes out in the morning. You're putting it together and you're trying to get it out to the people. But I feel like I can go back to being up till 3 in the morning and starting to wake up at 11 because Donald Trump seems to keep those hours also where everything happens in the afternoon. And I'm for it. And while I've talked about the Donald Trump petty presidency, dealing with things like straws, dealing with things like light bulbs, shower pressure, toilet flushing velocity, the important things that actually affect our lives, I could be all for bringing back late night American culture, bring back the 24-hour diners. Grocery stores should be open till at least 11. Major grocery stores should be open at a minimum to 11, probably 12 a.m., and there should be one 24-hour place in your town. It's like since COVID, we're still kind of living with curfew where nothing runs late anymore. And even our president's running late. So listen, I'm all for it. I'm all for shifting the entire country to more of an old school New York up all night, late night schedule. And so in that regard, I'm kind of liking the way that the news flow is happening where everything's in the afternoons now. There's no reason to being up early morning anymore. There's no reason for it. Everything's happening in the afternoon. And not even the afternoon. It's like after work hours. It's like Donald Trump likes to wait for the stock market to close to put out the juicy stories. And then you get the information at 10 or 11 p.m. This is a different era of news. It's like if you want to do the breaking news, you got to do it at 2 in the morning while Donald Trump is live tweeting. And then, we all got to start keeping Donald Trump's schedule. And I like his schedule. All right, here's another random topic. And then we'll get into all the fine slides that I've presented for you guys. AI, and specifically Grok, how's it pronounced? Grok on X is making it a little bit easier, I'm finding, to actually noodle through these stories and try and find the specifics. I find there's a lot of reporting that goes on without anyone ever making specific claims. And I almost want to create a website, and I say things all the time that I don't follow through on, but a news website that's something like the specifics.com. And I envision it almost working like a Rotten Tomatoes. And so when politicians spew complete and total and utter bullshit, you could say on the website, like a Rotten Tomatoes or like some of these other newsbuster websites, which are all fraudulent, by the way, are not all fraudulent on particular stories that I had researched and I looked up the way that they were debunking them. That you see, I should have the specifics right now. I should have done my homework and had the specific examples on this one because there were a few COVID pieces, but I don't remember the details. And that's what people should hold. We should all be held to the specifics because I feel like that's the way that these people are all able to bullshit. And maybe we could actually change the news framework if there was a website that let you know that zero specifics were given. And then people had an opportunity to comment. You could call them up and go, hey, what are the specifics on this? So like here's some examples of the specifics. I've talked about this one before, the boogeyman of Project 2025. They're all yelling, Project 20, we can't elect Donald Trump because of Project 2025. And they're like, not one news story told me what the specific risk of Project 2025 was. So you could just go zero specific risks have been given at this time. When reaching out to Democrats for comment on what specific risk is affiliated with enacting Project 2025, they chose not to comment. Or you can go back to the COVID thing. What specific science exists for why a mask needs to be worn until you're sitting down at a restaurant table? And then you could go, zero scientific reasons have been given at this time. When Fauci was reached out for comment, he chose not to comment. Could be a pretty good way of kind of policing things to know what is or isn't just complete and total bullshit. And that's going to come up a little bit later when, it's already last week's news. I should have done the episode on Sunday. I had stuff. I was ready to go. Didn't end up happening. I don't remember why. Because we tried filming something, and then we didn't end up filming it. There's not time to do everything, especially when you just fail at doing the thing you were trying to do. But we're going to be filming this weekend. We just had to push. You see, that's when things aren't live. I don't have to tell you about the equipment problems that we had behind the scenes. Anyways, wow, real spacey today. What was I talking about a second ago? I guess I either had too much coffee or not enough coffee. Yes, on the topic that I did not get to while it was still relevant because the speed of the news cycle of them passing the new budget and the specifics that weren't given were by the Democrats, which this was a real curveball, that they were going to go with they were going to go with Joe Biden's level of spending. They were going to extend it for an entire, up until September. And then they were saying that doing this would give more power to Donald Trump to enact his Doge agenda of budget cuts. But yet they gave zero specifics of how granting spending this much money all the way until September possibly gives more power to Donald Trump to enact budget cuts. And we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, let's take a couple comments. And then we can get into all the fine slides that I have for you people. Cousin Fiat Fat. The shop right by my house is open until midnight. It's glorious. Speed grocery runs are the best. I know. I miss being able to show up to a grocery market when I was done with work at like midnight, and you actually get grocery store pre-cooked food, or you can get all your shopping done without any lines, or that's fun too, when you roll up at like 11:52 just before they lock the door, and now you get to see if you can get everything and get to the counter. You get to practice almost for those television shows of how much can you pack into a grocery cart. That's a good time when you're starving. There's no restaurants open in a town, and you're able to get to the grocery store before it closes, and you get there 10 minutes before it closes, and now you got to be real. It's almost good. It's with the way my ADD is, because I'll just waste time in a market. I'll look at too many apples. I'll inspect the apples. I'll stare at the prices. I'll go back for this item. There's something nice about, hey, you got 10 minutes. You better grab what you're looking for and get out of here. Cousin Fat, 11 p.m., and I'm out by 11:30. John Popick, Trump's got the AMT time so nothing happens pre-noon. Is that what's going on? It would be awesome if he had on the front lawn of the White House, if he just put a couple little, maybe the little putt-putts. If he had the mini golf going out on the front lawn, and so he didn't take any meetings until he got all of his mini golf in the morning. Or it'd be nice if there was just one. Is there enough lawn? I've been to the White House. I don't think there's enough lawn for a single green, but you could practice probably the short game. You could probably get a couple holes on there. I feel like that'd be a good time. If Donald Trump it'd probably be a security risk just have him hanging out on the front lawn like that. Roadside ramblings, Big Mike Obama. Multiplayer madness, Rob. We need to know where you land on the Bush versus Ball debate. It's not much of a debate. You prefer bald. You'll work with the Bush if you got to work with the Bush. Sometimes, and this hasn't happened for a while, you get a lady and she's a little embarrassed, but she so wants to sleep with you that she's like, hey, and then you don't care because it's almost like finding them more naked. But, if you got plans to hang out with someone, it's almost disrespectful if they show up with a big old bush down there. Runaway Slav, R.I.P. the horsecock microphone. It'll be back next week. I fell asleep masturbating in a weird position and my neck hurts, and it's too girthy. It's too much weight. It's a lot of microphone to hold, but we're not done with it. Except that this microphone, I might listen back to in post and realize that I actually prefer the sound on it. And I don't think it's too weird talking into this microphone like this, so maybe we'll go with this one. Frone Lovin, L take on the Bush. L take on the Bush, Rob. No, you're wrong on that. You like, what kind of fat animals are you into, my friend? Core, when will they come out with Project 25? All right, enough of the comments. Let's get into the news. We've got things to get into, and first on my list is we've got, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong. We got to remove that. We got to add this. Now we're in business. We got to stand over here. Look at this professional operation, everybody. First is we've got RFK Jr. is going after the poppers. He's banning the poppers. And listen, I don't know the science of shoving things up your ass that don't actually fit in your ass unless you're taking one of these, but I believe in your freedom to do so. I think if you're out there and you're engaging in that kind of thing, and you want something so big up there, pooper, that you need some poppers for it, it should be your right to do so. And I think it's a little bit skeptical that the first thing that this guy's doing as head of HHS is that he's got to ban the poppers. Almost makes you wonder if a little popper incident is what made his voice that way. If he wasn't there at one point, that's too much. I shouldn't have taken those poppers. Oh no, Oh no, I'm losing my voice. Next up, we've got Schumer cancels book tour amid party backlash. People are outraged over the fact that he refunded Donald Trump's government. And I'm here to let you guys know, don't worry, the deep state will buy and burn those books anyways. The phony book tour to support the book that no one cares about and no one's going to read so that random Schuster or Penguin publishing house can run some checks from the deep state directly into your pockets. Don't worry, you'll still get your check, Chuck Schumer. Anyone want to look on these details afterwards if the Chuck Schumer sold less books because he wasn't able to go out on a press tour on it? That might be a fun little data point. And then you can start going after all these people and being like, listen, there's no reason for you to even do the book tours because Chuck Schumer didn't do his, and his book sold just as well. Why don't you actually do the job that you're paid for, Mr. Public Servant? I'm just here to serve the public, which is why I need to write this book and get on tour to support the book. Well, what about the public servant job part? Dan Bongino's new role at FBI, what it means. Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent, conservative commentator, has been appointed by President Donald Trump as the new deputy director of the FBI. And is that a typical position? Do they make up a title here? Can I get on the payroll of the government as the chief vice czar deputy of something important? If that could actually be the title. Chief vice czar deputy of something important. People are like, what are you up to? And you're like, it's important. John Popick in the chat trying to pretend like he doesn't know what a popper is. You know, that's a good way to play the Hugh smelt it, dealt it type game and pretend like you don't know. You could pretend like you don't know. I've been having a good time criticizing the Democrats as it seems they're really hoping that Donald Trump's tariffs destroy this country. That's the only card that they have is basically, just hoping that Donald Trump does something so terrible or they finally crash the economy. They speak to the Fed. I don't even know if you raise or lower interest rates to make that happen at this point. Something happens and they stop just pumping the money in and we finally have a big old reset at the end of the Donald Trump term and then the Republicans go, look at what he did to the working class. I mean, outside of that, their inability to sell whatever their message is. It's like the way the Republicans kind of have to walk back being a little bit too strong-armed on abortion because it's not that popular. The Democrats just have become the party of we're going to shame you. You guys are going to hear about how we have to prop up minorities. No matter how poorly you're doing in life, you're going to have to hear about these other people that are doing worse and how it's your fault. And remember that it doesn't matter what gender you were born as. The most important thing as a society is being inclusive to people that would like to pretend that they are a gender other than the one that they were born. They really got to walk away from all this nonsense. They got to walk away from the censorship. And they just got to do a real simple thing of pretending like they care about working Americans. That's all they got to do. They got to quit shaming them into going, hey, if you don't want endless people parading over the border, it's because you're mean and evil. But they haven't figured this stuff out yet. And talking about just how bad they are at messaging at the moment, putting out Bernie Sanders and old grandma pants out there, Elizabeth Warren, trying to sell this stuff on the news channels. And they're the old guard. They're not particularly good at it. And we've watched some other fumbles. We've watched some social media fumbles. But here's a particularly good one, because in sitting down and figuring out what they can do to get people back on board with the Democrats as they have their lowest support ever, what they realized is we don't have anyone talking about this particular moment in time. Ever since Kamala Harris dropped out or got beaten in the race, and we couldn't rig the elections because she was so unfavorable that we couldn't possibly get her in. Ever since those things transpired, what we're missing on the Democratic Party is somebody who can talk about moments in time. There's no one who's going to do it. We lost our key player in talking about moments in time. And so what we need is to repurpose that speechwriter and to get everybody in the Democratic Party talking about the moment of time that we're in, because who might be best at really having this OCD dialogue of digesting information that doesn't need to be thought about? You could just live in the moment, but not comment on the moment. But that wasn't the Kamala Harris way. The Kamala Harris way was to really digest, really take a second and establish all the variables about the moment that we're currently experiencing. And the Democrats, as they try and rebrand, they try and win back the American people to the left and to oppose Donald Trump. They've realized we need everybody talking about the moment in time. Roll the tape, producer, man.
What the base wants.
Classic.
But
You guys are
it's
telling
what
me
this
no
moment
sound.
requires.
Here, I think there's sound now. That's my bad. I just had it muted.
The
Let's
strength that
replay
we
it.
have is in this moment.
Listen to your constituents. Center them in this moment.
But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment.
You know, I think about what's happening, in this moment.
What's important is that we meet this moment.
So are these current Democrats the ones to meet the moment?
What do you want to see us doing right now in this moment?
And which Democrats are actually going to stand up against Elon Musk and Donald Trump in this moment?
The fight that you all are exhibiting is not just what the base wants, but it's what this moment requires.
There you go. The Democrats are auditioning who on their team is the best at taking up the moment mantle. Out of curiosity, I don't think I have that many more videos that we're going to be playing through the episode, but was the sound reasonably balanced between my microphone and the audio? You guys let me know. All right, next topic. We got a lot of stuff going on here. All right, this one, I don't even know if I've talked about this before, and I don't know if it's an original joke, but you know what? I don't even know if it's that funny of a joke. But things not being that funny or original or me having said it before has never stopped me on previous Run Your Mouth, so we're going to go for it because every time I see the pictures of the supposed boats being used by the Chinese military to potentially invade Taiwan, I have the same thought and I laugh in my head. And I don't know if it's an original thought. I'm sure someone said this before, but literally every time I look at the pictures, I laugh, so I'm going to share it with you guys. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, and this actually is not the best picture I've seen. But they got these boats with these giant bridges on it that apparently, I guess the idea is they're going to drive these boats over to Taiwan. They're going to lower the bridges, Normandy invasion style, bridge from the giant boat into the water. And every time I see these boats in my head, I just think they're made in China and I could see these bridges just snapping right off the front of the boat. Wouldn't that be the greatest thing to happen is if World War III just fell flat on its face because everything in the Chinese military was made in China and just broke on the spot? Just think about all the toys that you've had through your life that had that little made in China thing and didn't last more than a week or two. And then, obviously, I don't think anyone's fighting wars that doesn't escalate to nuclear wars, so I don't really know how this stuff plays out. But just every time I look at these pictures of what doesn't look like I don't know structural design that well. I don't know if you can bridge fuck boats together and match them together and then all of a sudden have all the little Asian people running from one boat to the other and just running forward. But tell me that doesn't look like something that would break on you. And then just think about all the stupid Chinese shit you've bought in your life that just broke right after you. Like, I've had the experience, I call it Amazon direct to garbage, where you open the thing up, you're too lazy to make the returns, it's missing a couple of the screws, the instructions make no sense, and then I just throw it right in the garbage and went, it wasn't that expensive anyways. I don't know if you guys are that ridiculous as a person, that you have something that you think you want, you order it, and then get lazy installing it and just deposit it directly in the garbage. But I've certainly done that. And, like I said, listen, it wasn't an A joke, but every time I see these pictures, I just laugh and think about the thing snapping the second that they show up to the beach. Oh, look at this. We do have another video for you. I don't agree with some of the actions that Donald Trump is taking. And we've already, we spoke about Yemen plenty on the last part of the problem. We don't have to get into that one. And, we're going to get into the deporting of these Venezuelan gang members. And, I'm all for rounding up people that illegally migrate into the country. And I'm particularly all for getting the criminals that are in this country first. I do think that there should be some sort of a process to actually establish that they've committed a crime or being in a gang, some sort of a court process before they just get instantly shipped to El Salvador. It'd be one thing if you shipped them back to Venezuela and that's all you did was ship them to Venezuela, and then the Venezuelan government processed them into a prison, and it was the decision of the Venezuelan government that these members should be in prison. And I'm all for shipping these people to their country of origin. You can put them in a parachute and have them drop down, have the parachute open, have them open, and have the government figure out what they're supposed to do with their own citizens that snuck into our country. And they can then vet them and decide whether or not they were one of the criminals that they even left out of their country. That's different than us making arrangements to send them directly to prison without some sort of a process to determine whether or not they engaged in criminal behavior or were even in a gang, which I guess maybe you can make the claim once you've identified as being a part of a violent gang. It's like you joined but you've joined this military that's engaged in war crimes, or however you want to frame it. Even that was some sort of a process, which on that note, is that the next one? No. So, but first I do want to give credit to Tom Horman, though, for style points, and for Donald Trump for style points, because even though I don't agree with what they're doing it with some good style. And so first let's watch this video where Tom Horman addresses some questions, because I might not agree what he's doing, but, he's got some good style while he's doing it. Roll the clip.
You say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
But some would say this is...
How many more times do you plan on deporting?
I love, hey, dummy. It's an old law. We still follow the Constitution, don't we, dummy? What kind of dumb question is that, you dummy? I love the tone. I love the just, hey, dummy attitude. The biggest, beefiest bully on the playground. Hey, dummy. Old laws. We still follow them. No more questions. I'm walking the fuck out. I'm turning him more Boston. He's upstate New York. And then this is like right out of that Bill Burr joke about Steve Jobs of walking around eating some pretentious fruit like a pear. And here you have people protesting him, and it's almost like he's got an apple guy. He's like, hey, can someone give me an apple? And there is something funny about just eating fruits in front of people that are very upset with you and just nonchalantly showing off the bottom, how good of a jaw bite you have, just showing them how good you are. I got to be honest, if I'm eating an apple, I like to slice up the apple, because otherwise the little pieces, they'll get stuck in my back teeth. I floss regularly. I got good gaps between my teeth. Is there anything more annoying than when you're out and about and you get a big chunk of that apple skin just stuck between some molars, and then you got to feel that, and then you're trying to do it without the floss, and that gets all annoying? But this real man over here with that giant bottom chin, he doesn't have that problem, and he's willing to show it off. Style points once again, eating an apple in the face of protesters. Let's give it a watch. I wonder if he's so good at this. He was like, hey, someone got a fruit that I can eat? No one's got a pear? Yeah, I can work with an apple. An apple will work. And then once again, I said, I don't approve. Listen, no one needs my approval or really all that much foreign policy analysis. Like I said, safe bet. Don't be killing kids. I feel like there's another way that we could be protecting ships and bullying people around so that they're not going after our ships. But for style points, leaving a golf course, looking like, you're the sales manager coming over and pumping into someone's call so that you can help them with the close, and then just going back to golf after bombing someone. I'll give you style points for it. You listen, I don't agree with the policies, but in terms of doing the things gracefully, I'll give you guys points on that. All right, so I don't know if you guys have ever seen footage of the El Salvador prison. And I guess the reality to life is, if you're involved in a violent gang and you're engaging in a gang that brings in complete corruption to society, and you're engaging in murder, that you can't be a part of society. On that note, every time I've ever seen pictures of these guys in this gang and the way that the people in this jail, I still just feel bad for people in jail. I don't know why. I don't know why, like, jail just kind of strikes a chord in me where I'm like, this looks so miserable. Maybe it's like some dude obsession. I've watched every jail movie. I don't know where that comes from, but there's just something. Listen, everything about this one stinks, and we're going to get into it. The judge that tried to oppose it and some of the other court cases that he ruled on, everything about this one stinks. And you could say that sometimes when you've got important things that you got to do, you can't always do it in the cleanest way possible. And the Trump administration, they're taking positive steps, and people need to be deported, and we need to do it in a cost-effective way. And dangerous criminals shouldn't even be reintroduced to their own societies. If we know that someone's a violent criminal, why would we send them back to their own societies for those areas to continue to have the chaos of these individuals being back and then potentially having more people wanting to flee that country? Like, we might as well also help those countries be better. And so if we know that people are violent criminals, why would we just send them back to those countries to potentially get sent back here by those governments, or just to be released into the wild in those own countries? And there is something to be said for all that. But without a court case to actually establish that these people are criminals, it seems the same as waterboarding terrorists or any of the other bad actions that we've taken, where I think we can do better. I don't think that our official policy should be rounding up people, not having court case. I understand deporting them without a court case. You would, like, if they don't have proof of being an American, or you can't establish that they're American, and there's some sort of a process for going, this guy's clearly not an American, deporting them to their country of origin, or finding out some different protocol if you can't figure out their country of origin. I don't think that's a problem. I don't think there's a lot of people that we round up and we don't know where they came from. And I'm all for deport them. You could even deport the non-criminals. I think we should start with the criminals, but you can deport the non-criminals. But I think taking people without proving a crime and then sending them to a jail that's not even of their country of origin, without any court case or process for them to potentially spend, I don't even know how much time in one of the worst jails on the planet, that doesn't seem great. And by the way, for gang members out there, I got an idea for you. Quit looking like a gang member. Just get a tattoo on your back that literally says "not a gang member." Somehow they should make that. And I understand it. I don't understand. Like, listen, when I used to smoke weed in high school, it was pretty illegal, and you could get in trouble. And we live in a different world now, where I don't even know. Like, if you were trying to tell kids now how you were cool for smoking weed, they would be like, "Yeah, everyone smokes weed." And even when I was in high school, we all smoked weed. But you could legitimately get in trouble for it. It was not the way it is now. Not by a long shot. And I got away with things because I was a chubby little fat kid with a comb over who wore polo shirts and khakis, and I just didn't look like I was causing any problems. And I feel like someone should pay that forward to these people of just like, and I'm not trying to help these people dodge jail. I'm just saying, is that how they're identifying them? Is that they just look at the tattoos and they're like, yeah, that's you got a face tattoo. You were probably part of this gang. We're going to deport you with everyone else to El Salvador. Now, this is from the New York Times, so, you could take it as being information from the New York Times. Venezuela deportations. To evict migrants without a hearing, the administration cited a wartime law used most recently to intern Japanese Americans during World War II. And even that, I thought, it's a little bit goofy. That it'd be one thing, like sometimes there are laws that made sense and they're from a long time ago. And we saw this with Donald Trump, that all of a sudden, and once again, I'm failing on the specifics. I'm going to get better on it. I pledge to the audience. We're going to use more Gronk. We're going to think ahead a little bit, and we're going to be pulling more specifics. And then we're going to try and hold other people to specifics, because that's how you weed out some of the bullshit. But there were, I think it was the Foreign Adversary Act or something that they were trying to peg Donald Trump on, and they hadn't used it in like 100 years. And sometimes that alone is corruption, is you got some law in the books, no one uses it, and now all of a sudden they're enforcing it on you. But this one, if the last time we used it was to intern the Japanese, does anyone still support? Are there people like, I don't frequently hear anyone going, hey, we should have still fought in Vietnam and that was the right decision. I know you hear other people telling you that the domino theory didn't play out because we lost that war and then it didn't come true, but really was important for the American strategic interest. Are there people now that look back on us interning the Japanese without thinking like, yeah, we shouldn't have done that? And so you're telling me not only were you using a law that we haven't used in a while, it was actually a law that was despicable at that time also? Let's read again. Venezuela deportations. To evict migrants without a hearing, the administration cited a wartime law used most recently to intern Japanese Americans during World War II. The United States is not at war with Venezuela. It has dispatched plane loads of migrants over the weekend despite a court order that tried to stop the deportations. We'll get into the nonsense of that because this thing stinks on all sides. White House officials argue that a judge can't restrict the president's national security powers, and even if one could, the order came too late. They stuck to those arguments in a court hearing. Now, I will say, the fact that we've got random judges around the country who maybe were even put in by Joe Biden, and then a random judge gets to just, like, I see both sides of this. I think we even criticized AOC when she had said otherwise about Joe Biden. But if a president engages in illegal activity, there should be a judge that goes, hey, the president doesn't have the authority to do so. But on the same note, when a president gets voted into office, random judges that were appointed by the other side, I don't know, then there should be like major accountability if those people end up getting struck down. Or I've said it on a previous episode, I think we need like a secondary Supreme Court to particularly just work on these cases, because I don't think random judges should be able to just strike down the president's actions. And so in this case, I don't even agree with this particular action taken by the president. I'm all for deporting people, but not just sending them directly to a jail in El Salvador. But now this one's crazy. The judge that really strong-armed the administration and is now trying to pull records of when he got the notice and that they should have turned the planes around once the planes were out there. It seems like between the two, if we're not sure who has the authority in a given moment, go with the president's actions over the random judge until you can kind of sort it out. But here's some fun facts, courtesy of Grok 3, about the judge that reprimanded the Donald Trump administration for ignoring him on saying that, and by the way, isn't it funny how, I don't know if you guys have ever had to deal with the court system. I have not. But from what I've heard, it's not that easy to get in front of a judge and to have a court case. I guess it's funny when all of a sudden a judge is very concerned with the actions that the Trump administration is engaging in and seems to get right on it and have quick decisions and then wanting to enforce their quick decisions. But here, let's read this. This is about the judge that is all up in arms about the actions that Donald Trump took and tried to strong-arm them and turn the plane around and then request additional documents. Yes, James E. Boasberg, I asked, did James E. Boasberg handle any cases related to Jeffrey Epstein or Ray Epps? Because I had seen that mentioned in an article and I was looking for the specifics. Yes, James E. Boasberg, Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, has handled cases related to both Jeffrey Epstein and Ray Epps, though in different contexts. Regarding Jeffrey Epstein, Judge Boasberg was involved in overseeing the unsealing of documents related to Epstein's network of associates. These documents stemmed from a defamation lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell in 2015. Boasberg ruled on December 28, 2023, that the names of more than 150 individuals connected to Epstein, previously redacted, should be made public, leading to the release of nearly 1,000 pages of court records starting January 3, 2024. His role was not in directly prosecuting Epstein, who died in 2019, but in managing the disclosure of related legal materials, balancing privacy concerns with public interest. As for Ray Epps, Judge Boasberg directly presided over Epps' case tied to the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Epps, a former Trump supporter, pleaded guilty in September 23 to a misdemeanor charge of disorderly conduct in a restricted area. On January 9, 2024, Boasberg sentenced Epps to 1 year of probation, $500 in restitution, 100 hours of community service, more lenient than the 6 months of prison time prosecutors sought. Which, by the way, 6 months of prison time is a lot more lenient off the bat from the prosecutors than what I've seen from other January 6 people. Boasberg noted Epps' early cooperation with authorities, his attempts to de-escalate violence, and the severe harassment he faced from conspiracy theories falsely, and then I got that thing blocking. So Boasberg handled significant proceedings involving both figures, Epstein through document unsealing and Epps through sentencing in January 6 related case. So I guess on the Epstein one, he was pushing transparency, but on the Ray Epps one, he was involved in a sweetheart deal for the most notorious January 6 figure for with everyone that got in trouble, why was the guy who was yelling, let's go into the Capitol building, getting a lenient sentence? So there is something very screwy about random, more liberal judges being able to push around Donald Trump, even though in this case, I don't agree with what Donald Trump was doing. Also, I don't want to read all this because I'm getting lazy, but it's up on screen. If you guys want to pause here, you can read it. I think he was also involved with the FISA courts. He didn't directly oversee the FISA court warrant for Operation Crossfire Hurricane, but he was involved with the office at that time. I'm going to give that as that short summary. Other court blockages that happened this past week. Yeah, the court blocks presidential ban on trans members of the military. Once again, part of Trump's agenda. He's been saying we're going back to there's only two genders. And I guess in Donald Trump's mind, if you have mental illness, you're unfit to serve in the United States military. Go work out what your gender is and come back as your, original gender. And if you're a dude that you can handle the elite units, you can come back and come serve here. Court blocks presidential ban on trans members of military. And of course, the judge who did so, Ray's a Biden appointee, said the ban was motivated by animus and stigmatized transgender individuals as inherently unfit to serve. And why does this judge get to make the determination that that is a political bias against people as being inherently unfit to serve? Why does he? Well, what science is he working with that these people are fit to serve? Particularly if the people in the military, it's like any job site. If I'm on a job site and I'm like, I don't really think that these, now I'm just, I'm arguing for discrimination, but I am pro discrimination. It's pretty hard to make a company. If you want to build a company and you want to work with specific sets of individuals, I think it should be your freedom to do so. But in this case, when it comes to the military, if the military, I don't know, should we say that it's discrimination against fat people? If the military is like, I need people who are of at least physical fitness to participate on the SEAL team. And so if they go, hey, we need people of the following, you can look at it this way. We need people of a certain emotional and mental discipline level that if you are transgender, we don't believe that you are fit to serve in these units. They should be able to make that determination. Or the determination could even be, we need a certain culture amongst certain fighting units. And a lot of the people that want to serve in these units are actually highly conservative males that are a little bit weirded out by this. So we'd rather just know that we're safe and that we have these people or the following culture here. All determinations that should be made by the military, not by a random Biden appointee being able to unwind what's actually a favorable policy. And then here was another Obama judge ruled against DOJ shutdown of USAID orders employee access reinstated. I think that's a problem across the board, is the fact that these liberal judges, I see it both ways. I think it happened to Joe Biden in regards to canceling student debts. That was illegal. And so a court's like, you're not allowed to do that. And so, we do need to have judges that can check presidential power if they're doing something that's illegal. But on the same note, when things seem to be more in the political lane, and then judges that were appointed by a previous administration or just have different viewpoints that weren't voted by the public, and then working against the president, seemingly with more authority on the things, I don't know. I don't know that I have a total solution worked out other than that there should be probably a higher court that actually makes these determinations and not random judges. And I know some of you lawyers are going to be like, well, procedurally, it starts off with the lower judges and then the administration can ignore it until it goes to the higher judges. And I don't know. There's just something stupid about that to me. All right. Before we get into what went on in terms of continuing to fund the government, let's take a moment, thank one of our sponsors, and let's go with sheathunderwear.com. Or actually, it's just sheath.com. Bobby the Banks, he got the big bucks. Not quite at the sheath jet yet, but he's been slinging enough in them sheaths. He was able to buy the domain sheaths.com, make it short, easy, and simple for you to go there and pick up some beautiful, comfortable sheath underwear. We're getting into the hot and spicy season. And let me tell you, if you don't want to live a life without ass sweat, without chafing legs, without those thighs rubbing together, without feeling those little itty-bitty beads of sweat coming down your balls, if you don't want to be dealing with all of that, if you want to know that your junk is clean and pristine, and that your legs are nice and slick and just kind of gliding together, then what you need is the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. You know where you get there? You get it from sheath.com. Use promo code RYM and you get yourself 20% off the most comfortable underwear that's ever been created. I endorse sheath.com. And so if you're a fan of the show, I make the recommendation. Go to sheath.com and use promo code RYM for 20% off. All right, I would like to delve into, and I know that it's last week's news, but we're already into an hour of the show. And so who knows how many people are even still listening. We covered all the fresh and recent topics and the funny stuff up front, but let's get into what happened with all the shenanigans of fighting about whether or not they're going to refund the government and who will be at fault for if the government's got to shut down. And so I want to read this one first. I don't even remember where I got it from, but I also want to make it full screen so that I can walk closer and I can actually read it. The GOP's full-year continuing resolution, or CR, is a different from routine full-year funding bill because it omits detailed instructions from Congress about how to spend appropriate funds, giving Trump officials greater flexibility to put spending on hold, then later allowing Congress to potentially rescind it. In the backdrop were a series of new job cuts across the government, including Education Department's announcement this week that was cutting about half its staff, and the Veteran Affairs Department plans to cut 70,000 from the workforce. So what I picked up from this article more than anything else was when the Republicans were screaming at Thomas Massie that now is not the time. There's a time and a place for addressing the fact that we're spending far too much money and that we are unable to sustain the debt that we have, and we're taking on even more debt, and we're supposed to be the Republicans talking about saving money. And we just made this whole big stink about Doge and these cuts in fraud and abuse. And now you're putting back in place Biden's budget, which is going to refund all the programs that Elon Musk just cut. But what I picked up on more than anything, and this is a statement against the Republicans who wanted to speak, who were talking out against Thomas Massie and saying, now is not the time to oppose it. Well, if now is not the time to oppose it, and we just need a little bit more time to get our shit together, then why would you do a longer continuing resolution than your typical continuing resolution? If you're just going, listen, we just need a little bit more time to ease into a couple things and address this, so then why wouldn't you go, we just do it, you know what? Like when you ask for an extension on something, you go, I need a month. You don't go, I need more than what was the original time period that was given for me to do this essay. I mean, at least that's the way it worked when I was in college. You couldn't be like, hey, give me another semester on this thing. You'd wait till the night before, you'd take a bunch of Adderall, it would go the wrong way on you, you'd end up too anxious, you'd end up jerking off a whole bunch, the thing wouldn't get done, you'd show up to the professor's office, please, I need 3 more days, but that's what you'd ask for. You'd ask for 3 more days, you'd go, I need a week. You wouldn't go, hey, I need a whole nother semester. If the entire claim is, we just need a little bit more time to get our shit together, but we're going to do the thing that you wanted us to do, you wouldn't go with a longer continuing resolution. And then on that note, here was the bullshit coming from the Democrats about why they were going to oppose it, which was surprising to me. It was surprising to me that I was wrong on that one. Look at me over here, willing to admit when I'm wrong. I was saying at a minimum, the Republicans should put forward to continuing the Doge cuts and saying we're cutting back on fraud and abuse. And if anything, go with the short-term one, and then force the Democrats to oppose it, and then pin it on them. Why are you guys specifically looking to support fraud and abuse? But then even as is, with the amount of money that was going to be passed for a longer period of time, at first the Democrats decided to oppose it, and then Chuck Schumer managed to get a coalition together and push it through. But this is from New York Times, AOC. I believe that's a tremendous mistake, she said in a CNN interview on Thursday. And she had specific criticism of the legislation itself. Look, even the New York Times understands you need some specifics. Let's see what this specific criticism is. This turns the federal government into a slush fund for Donald Trump and Elon Musk, she said. It sacrifices congressional authority, and it is deeply partisan. Can someone explain that part to me? I guess because if you do a longer funding round and Congress approves it, now the money's spent, but it's in the hands of Donald Trump, and so he gets to, I don't know, something, maybe I'm just missing it here, but that seems to miss the specifics to me on how this actually gives more power to, if you're approving the spending, How does it give more power to Donald Trump and Elon Musk to rescind the spending? And I say that specifically because I remember there was a wild case with Joe Biden when he was there was a certain amount of money that had to be spent on the border wall, even though he didn't want a border wall. But since it had already been appropriated by Congress, he said legally I have to spend that money, even if I don't agree with it. So if the money's being spent by Congress, I don't know. Maybe there's just something missing on this one. And then here was another one. The far-right Republican funding bill will unleash havoc on everyday Americans, giving Donald Trump and Elon Musk even more power to continue dismantling the federal government. Representative Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Does this bother you guys also, where you're like, well, how? How does it get? Can someone tell me? I mean, I don't just fundamentally see it. It's not like gravity. If we throw something up, it's going to fall down. I mean, I kind of follow politics, and I don't see the direct correlation between passing the continuing resolution and how that gives more power to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, how approving spending more money gives more power to them to dismantle the federal government. It doesn't add up to me. And I read this stuff and I get annoyed because I'm like, can you tell me the specifics on how it does? And then this was from Chuck Schumer, which I guess lays out a little bit more of a reason here. Let's read it. He argued that blocking the measure and risking a shutdown would have enabled Donald Trump and Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to speed up the restructuring of agencies, citing the administration's power during a funding lapse to determine which employees and services are essential or non-essential. Now, this is interesting because what I'm reading is that Chuck Schumer is saying we can't shut down the government because shutting down the government gives more power to the Republicans. And if there's ever been an argument that maybe the Republicans want to read on why the shutdown might not be that bad, it's what Chuck Schumer is saying here. Let's reread the line. He argued that blocking the measure and risking a shutdown would have enabled Trump and Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to speed up the restructuring of agencies, citing the administration's power during a funding lapse to determine which employees and services are essential or non-essential. In other words, if no one's showing up and we shut down the government and things seem to be functioning okay, you can see first on the list of people that you don't need to have there. A shutdown would allow Doge to shift into overdrive, and Schumer on the Senate floor, while warning Republicans might not be in a rush to reopen the government. They can stay in shutdown as long as they want. Democrats also worried that the federal courts might get shut down during a funding lapse, stalling cases challenging administration's actions. I mean, if there's ever been a person who might make a better strategist for the Republicans than Chuck Schumer right here on arguing why the Republicans should have made more demands on cutting funding, because if the government gets shut down, then they could remove the judges that are overseeing them or realize what departments they don't need. It's kind of like when Elon Musk was telling that joke. It's very easy for us to go through these offices because no one works on the weekends. The GOP-written measure, known as a continuing resolution, largely funds the governments for the rest of fiscal 2025 at the prior year's level, but provides the administration more flexibility to downsize and dismantle agencies. I'll just ask you once again, and this is from the Wall Street Journal, how? Was there a provision in this specifically that gives more power to Doge? And if that's the case, why not just report on it? All right, let's thank our last sponsor from today's episode, PhoenixAmmo.com, as we talk about reckless government spending. We all know how reckless government spending, it can drive up prices. And, you know, if the government's buying all these bullets from all these private companies, then there's more demand from them. But there's one company out there, they won't sell to the government. They'll only sell to you. There's no government contracts over at Phoenix Ammo. There's just you, the consumer, legally buying the bullets that you're looking to have, so that when you go out there and you do your target practice or otherwise, you got high quality bullets at fantastic prices, and you know that you're not supporting any government efforts, any government wars, or any company that is engaging in any of these conflicts around the world. So if you want to feel good about yourself, you want to enjoy your hobby and know that you're distance yourself from the deep state war machine and you're working with an independent bullet provider, you go to PhoenixAmmo.com. No promo code necessary. All right, let's take a couple comments. We've got Matzo Balls. Well, clearly, Robbie, the slush fund is better off in the hands of unelected officials than in Trump's in their minds. How does a continuing resolution shift it from their slush funds to government? To Donald Trump. Jamie Johnson, Snatch Skin Beauty. Steve Bannon explains that the CR details on Gavin Newsom's podcast. All right, there you go. Give me the pitch. Well, I got to give that one a listen. I listened to some clips. I didn't listen to the whole thing. Maybe I gotta delve in. Got to listen to more of Gavin Newsom duking it out. Mitch S., what if they're just developing more efficient ships that can automatically unload shitty gifts for spoiled fat American children? That's a good one. That's a good one, Mitch. How do we know that the Chinese military isn't a ground invasion for Christmas of making sure that we can unload our the stuff quickly? John Popick, Robbie's cosplaying a Jewess, refuses to do Amazon return to get his shekels back for shame. Jamie Johnson throwing it out there. So Steve Bannon, does he actually say how the continuing resolution gives more power over to Donald Trump to unwind fraud and abuse or spending? If so, let's get that timestamp. Jessman 508, the bush looks wild, but it gives it texture. Fair enough. U.S. brokers deal in Syria. And, you know what, I'll read the first the first paragraph here. The U.S. military has been playing an important role behind the scenes diplomatic role in Syria, helping broker deals between militia groups and the country's new government, American officials said. And this is the kind of thing, I would just stay out of the news on this one. I mean, I was yelling conspiracies before, and I believe it to be true that the United States was highly involved and managed to team up with the Taliban in what's the real version of the Suicide Squad. 20 years of failed military adventures, and then we finally were like, all right, let's just team up with those guys and start overthrowing some dictators. And over the last couple weeks, there's been, for all the talk about how much of a brutal dictator Assad was, which he was, there's been a lot of images of the more recent regime going after the Christians in the area and also taking part in the atrocities. And so behind the scenes, maybe you don't want to make it as transparent as being in the newspaper of letting people know that we're directly working with the terrorists that we helped overthrow the last dictator. I'm not saying the last dictator was good. I'm just saying that the new terrorists that we put in over there are also, involved in some atrocities. So just maybe don't want to endorse it and do a better job of pretending like it wasn't the CIA version on it. All right, we got some nonsense news, and then we're going to call it an episode, and then potentially be back Friday, because I got a lot of stuff going on. Here you got Tracy Morgan throwing up on at an NBA game. I ate too many corn dogs. Corn dogs are delicious. Too many. I mean, that's rough being an adult out just puking on the side of a court. The Facebook tell-all Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want you to read briefly explained. And this one, are you trying to get me to, I don't like Mark Zuckerberg. No, nothing's going to get me to like Mark Zuckerberg. But is he figuring out the new media version that he's got bad press being written up on him and the bad press? This is the bad press about him. This is the horrible bad press about Mark Zuckerberg. Sure, there was a story of, hey, this is a high-stress corporation, and I was out with this lesbian lady on road trips who's buying me lingerie and trying to sleep with me in the same beds. Those lesbians, they're aggressive. For all you heard about workplace sexual harassment coming from males, you get lesbian in high-power positions, and I guess they're pulling the same racket. But this was the one paragraph in this article about the horrors of Mark Zuckerberg, and Zuckerberg comes off looking bad, too, based on early reviews and reporting on the book's allegations. NBC News sums up what the Wynne Williams claimed about the Facebook co-founder, now Meta CEO, thusly. His belief that Andrew Jackson was the greatest American president. I got no problem with that. I got to go do more reading on Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson defended us against the Rothschilds' interest of coming in here and creating a Federal Reserve. And yet you got all these liberal idiots parading, cherishing Hamilton. I think Andrew Jackson was, at least in regards to, trying to keep the our government without having a private bank that could endlessly engage in the fractional reserve banking system and, give itself free money and bail itself out. Andrew Jackson was on the right side of what was probably the biggest issue. His belief that Andrew Jackson was the greatest American president, his interest in collecting wine from the Jackson era in the 1830s, doesn't sound that bad to me. His desire to have a tribe of children also doesn't sound that bad to me. And his professional ignorance that Facebook employees were letting him win at the board game Settlers of Catan. That's the worst he got on the guy, is that the nerds realized that he really likes winning in board games, and so you better let him win the board games. That's the best you got on this guy. You're writing a hit piece on Mark Zuckerberg. I don't like Mark Zuckerberg, but you talk about how the guy was, in bed with the deep state and willing to censor the internet for COVID. Not this nonsense. I mean, it just showcases the perspective of these media corporations that they even think that makes a person look bad. You know what? I'm going to save that one for the next episode. We'll call it here. I got a hot take on this one. We'll come back to it. That is the end of our episode. Thank you for hanging out. Probably back Friday, and not going to cut an intro on Friday because today's intro, it took me too much time. But Friday, we're going to do a chaotic episode. A lot of random articles. And guys, porch tour season is coming up. Hit me up if you got them porches. robsnewsroom@gmail.com. I will be confirming those porches shortly. We got some good routes coming up. We got some Florida. We've definitely got a trip going all the way up to, we're going to do some Canada. If you got Montreal, I really want to do Montreal. We're going to be coming back down through New Hampshire. We're going to do a whole trip around the Carolina areas. And on that note, I think my Charlotte one fell through. So if you got a spot out in Charlotte, hit me up. Shoot me some emails. robsnewsroom@gmail.com. And then come ski with me. Steamboat is in like a couple weeks. You can go to my website. It's linked into the episode description, robbernsteincomedy.com, of which we're slowly migrating all of my content over there so that you can stream it, high definition, be off the tubes and all that stuff. All right, that is our episode. Thank you for hanging out. Back, I don't know about Friday. I think I'm filming on Friday. We'll figure